4 years of Thunderbolt 3 with this thing. And I really, really wanted to love it. My name is Sean and welcome to Tech Mixer. This is the Caldigit TS3 Plus Thunderbolt dock. As a matter of fact, this is my second Caldigit TS3 Thunderbolt dock. You get the idea of where this review is going. Keep watching, it's a really mixed bag. So the port layout is pretty simple, but it's plentiful. So you get a host port, which is your Thunderbolt 3 to the computer itself, and then you have a daisy chain port. Now you can use this to connect things like external hard drives, Thunderbolt hard drives, and you can also connect Thunderbolt or USB-C monitors. Also, if you use this with a MacBook Pro, it will provide up to 87 watts of power. 87 watts is really good for almost everybody and probably overkill for a lot of people. All right, let's take a look at the device itself. So on the back, you get a DisplayPort 1.2 port, 4 USB-A 3.1 ports capable of 5 gigabit per second transfers and 7.5 watts of charging. You get one USB-C port, which is capable of 10 gigabit per second transfer speeds, a PDIF port, but if I'm being honest about this optical out port, I found it really distorted. It didn't matter what I plugged it into, it didn't matter what my levels were, it just didn't sound good at all. You get a gigabit Ethernet port and a barrel DC input adapter at 20 volts and 9 amps, which I had to get replaced immediately upon receiving the dock. More on that later. On the front of the dock, we have an SD card reader capable of UHS 2 speeds, stereo in and out ports, which, I mean, they're nothing great, but they do the job, so I guess that's cool. Another USB-C and USB-A port. Both of these ports are only capable of 5 gigabit per second via USB 3.1, and a blue power LED, which on my dock doesn't work anymore. Also, more on that later. Transfer speeds while both monitors are connected are pretty good. Obviously, due to bandwidth limits, you'll notice you'll get a few extra megabytes per second being directly connected to the computer. But you'll notice that the 5 gigabit per second USB-C port is substantially slower than the 10 gigabit, so keep that in mind. Also, here's an example of SD card speed on the Caldigit TS3 Plus versus the USB-A card reader that came with my Kingston Canvas React Plus cards. My dual monitor setup works really well with this, but you have to keep in mind that you can only use the DisplayPort out, obviously, and for your second display, you can only use the second Thunderbolt out on the dock. So any other USB-C port will not support video. So to do that, you can take the second Thunderbolt 3 port and connect that to a USB-C adapter and go HDMI to a monitor, or you can use a Thunderbolt or USB-C compatible monitor and connect it that way, which is what I'm doing. No surprise, gigabit Ethernet works just fine. The PDIF port leaves a lot to be desired. I found it was distorted, as I said earlier. So I'd show you an example of how bad the audio is, but I also did vow to myself that I was going to fix the audio in my videos moving forward, and I think I've done just that. So if you look around the room, it's a total mess in here because I've been furiously trying to sound treat the room with acoustic foam. I'll get panels later, but this will work for now. And I upgraded the mic, so if you like the new sound aesthetic, sure. If you like the sound of this video, throw a comment down below and yeah, let me know what you think. So the last thing I'm gonna say about connectivity on this dock, and it's something that's pretty cool, is that if you have two Macs, you can always network them using the Caldigit TS3 Plus, which is pretty cool. So I have a Hackintosh, which runs Thunderbolt 3, and I have a MacBook Pro. It's a 2020 or a 2019. I don't understand Apple's yearly naming thing. But anyway, it has Thunderbolt 3, and if I connect them directly, they work, and I can network between them. And if I connect them through the dock, they also work. So that is also really cool. So all was good, right? You know, I got the dock and I was ready to get that total Thunderbolt and USB-C life until a few things happened. So this is actually my second dock. The first one, the original one that I purchased, I actually picked it up in February of 2018. And right when I got it, the first time I plugged it in, I noticed this terrible buzzing coming from one of my Yamaha HS8s. And I couldn't recreate it through any other configuration. It was as soon as I plugged in the dock. So I reached out to Caldigit, and their support is fantastic. So they actually overnighted me another power supply, which was really cool of them. And then they said, yeah, by the way, with the old one, you can just recycle that. You don't have to send it back to us. So I did that. I recycled it, and that's long gone now. And the buzzing went away right away. So all was well. Until about 8 months later, I found that if I so much as moved the dock, like even the slightest bit, or I plugged in an SD card, or I did anything where the dock moved in the slightest little bit, it would disconnect everything that was connected to it. So I figured, okay, well, maybe it's one of those pricey Thunderbolt 3 cables, and maybe it's just defective, so I'll just replace it. Now, I actually have two 2-meter Caldigit branded Thunderbolt cables. And I have the original, I believe it's a 0.8 meter cable that came in the box. It might be smaller than that, actually. So I have those. Plus I have a 2-meter OWC cable that I actually got when I purchased an OWC dock, which I sold to buy this dock. And it seems like all of the cables, they all do the same thing. So this wasn't about the cable as much as it was about the port. Luckily, their support staff is stellar. They elected to send me a brand new dock, which was really painless, to be honest. And they sent the new one. They explained that the first generation, that some of the ports, the tolerances weren't as tight, so the cable could come out like easier than they do on the version of the dock that I got. So I plugged it in, everything powered up, everything worked, and life was great. The keyword there was. Back in October of 2021, I noticed the same issue starting up again. Didn't matter what cable, what computer, it just would disconnect if you so much as looked at it the wrong way. Like, it was brutal. But I got used to it. I said, okay, everything is all good. I'll just use it as is, and I'll just be very careful not to touch it unless I have to. Then something weird started happening. So there's a little blue LED right there. So it started flickering, and then it would shut off, and then it would come on, but everything was still connected to the dock. No hard drives disconnected, my Apollo interface didn't disconnect, everything seemed fine. I thought that was a little bit strange, so I shot them an email. Now this would happen like maybe once, twice a week, like it wasn't anything major. So if we look at the email, they replied with, "Thank you for reaching out to Caldigit. I'm happy to hear your unit. Aside from the light has been working to standard. Occasionally, the power source for the LED light alone within the TS3 becomes weak or gives out on rare occasions. But this is not in itself an indicator of anything wrong within the TS3 Plus itself. If you start to experience any power or connectivity issues, please let us know and don't hesitate to reach out to us again. But for the moment, it appears the light simply burned out without it being indicative of a serious problem." Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. So after it was flickering, it just died like a month later. So the light is off, but everything's still connected. As a matter of fact, I'm recording this audio right now through my Apollo, through the dock, and it's working, and the light is off as I'm recording this. Something else worth noting with this dock, and actually even the previous iteration that I had, the bottom or the side, depending on how you orient it on your desk, gets very hot. How hot? This desk was custom made with a coated epoxy, and well, yeah, that's all from the heat from where the dock has been resting, so just keep that in mind. Which brings me to a very interesting question. Matter of fact, some advice I would like from you guys, the audience. The Caldigit TS4 was released, and all the USB ports seemingly support 10 gigabit. They even added a micro SD card slot above the standard card slot, and it supports faster charging if that's your thing, sure. Currently, I'm in the Thunderbolt 3 ecosystem, and look, the dock looks good, but a couple of things. So the first is, I don't know what I would lose out on not having any machines that support Thunderbolt 4. My understanding is that the bandwidth is the same, but I don't know what functionality I'm going to lose on the TS4. So is it even worth upgrading to? So looking at the store today as I record this, they've been out of stock since launch day, and that's due to the chip shortage, which doesn't raise a lot of confidence when I had all these quality control problems. So I'm a little apprehensive to order one. I don't know, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Oh, and if you're commenting on this, you're gonna notice that this dock is called the TS3 Plus, where the new one is just called the TS4. So is there a 4 Plus variant coming? Do we wait? Like, what do you guys think? I don't know. I thought that was really interesting that they omitted the plus at the end of TS4. Interesting. So one thing I left out about the TS4 is that it also comes with an upgraded Ethernet port. So it goes from gigabit now up to 2.5 gigabit, which is fantastic if you have the hardware to support it. I'm actually running 10 gig in this machine. Speaking of network speed, you know what would be amazing to connect to that 2.5 gigabit port on the TS4 is the Asus AX89X. Matter of fact, if you're new to the channel, hit the sub button, but also check out this router review I did. You can find that right here. That's where I take this router and go beyond gigabit on Bell Fiber to the Home in Canada. My name is Sean. This has been Tech Mixer. I'm out.